let's look at Saturday's games. It's the final day of week 9, 13 games on. We're going to find out who's in, who's out, hopefully, and then also what we need to do to stream in to win. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and Christmas isn't about market share. It's about a little baby being born in a shed at the back of a pub. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the most exciting and easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Be a double banger. Bang it up once on audio and then bang it up the second time on video. Be with us every day. But if you just have both of those things just running in the background, it just helps the show grow. We're always got these targets that we're trying to hit. Ultimately, you want the play button. 100,000 subs on YouTube. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So let's just bump those numbers up. We are hoping to bump your numbers up for the end of week 9 on Saturday with 13 games on. Remember, no games on Sunday and then Christmas on Monday. And like Christmas, Saturday is a very, very early start. So be ready to set your lineups. For those of you in Australia like me, the first game is at 4:30 a.m. So, Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl participants, we're going to put that second waiver time earlier, an hour before that game starts. So 4:30 a.m. is 12:30, so 30 minutes past. How do you guys even say that? I would say 12:30, but what would you guys say? Like half past midday? I don't even know. Americans sometimes say times differently to us. Anyway, 12:30 p.m. Saturday is the first game of the day. That is the Bucks and the Knicks. So we've got an afternoon game. 12:30 p.m. is that first game. That's 4:30 a.m. for us. Get your lineups ready, cracking, set, all of that stuff that we need to do. That is great. Let's get into this again. This is last day of the week. We like to look at the individual categories that we're streaming in, plus, of course, for points leagues, the guys that we're looking with a roster percentage of 45% or less right across the board. Let's start off, and apologies, I forgot to put the color coding on this first injury slide, so my bad, but all those guys are currently out. Jericho Sims, Mason Plumlee. Now, when I do this, the long-term injuries, I'm not going to include most of the time on this list, just so we know that they're guys out. It's guys who are sort of starting to get closer to returning. Jericho Sims out, Mason Plumlee out. LaMelo Ball is out. Markelle Fultz, I'm going to assume, is out. I don't think I've seen anything official on that, but let's just assume that he is out at the moment. Jordan Clarkson, I had listed as out, but I had him out still for another week, but he's questionable. So just in between me creating these graphics and recording the show, Clarkson's actually questionable. So that might completely kill our Colin Sexton stream. We hold for now. Hold on Sexton for now. Lonnie Walker does remain out. With his hamstring injury. Jalen Johnson is out, but he's going to be coming back really soon. I'm expecting that Gaz Payton is out, but at the moment, all we know that he is out for Friday. Draymond Green is out suspended. These Mavericks ones, I don't know. Everyone's out for them on Friday, right? I expect that Josh Green will miss on Saturday. I expect Kyrie Irving will miss on Saturday. We haven't really had an update on Kyrie Irving. I expect Derek Lively misses on Saturday. I would think Lively and Irving have a chance to return for Christmas, but I don't think they're going to play on Saturday. But at this point, that is up in the air. Alex Len is out as well. Luke Cornett is doubtful. The asterisk there, I don't know if you picked up on this. When I put a little asterisk next to someone's name, that means that is me projecting. Now, that is my job, right, to project things all the time, and I'm going to get things wrong. So it's the nature of projections. One of the things that I always find hardest in this industry doing this is that I do like to be right? Who doesn't? But I really strive to be right. But when you do projections and predictions, you're going to be wrong. So accepting that you're going to be wrong on stuff is tough, and it was hard to adjust to. So I'm listing Luke Cornett as doubtful because I'm projecting that he's not going to play, but I don't know. Right? That's what the asterisk is. It's me projecting. Same as Keontae George. I don't know that he's going to be out in that game. I expect that he is out, but he might be back. In fact, I don't even know did we get an update on Keontae? We did actually. We just got an update on him. So I was right. He is out. And I projected that Mark Williams would be listed doubtful. And guess what? I nailed it. He was listed doubtful again. Again, doubtful. This absolute dickhole of a team continues to list him doubtful every game. Someone, and I know I've mentioned on the show before, and I tweeted this out, and someone said, well, how does this actually hurt the... Because I posed a question to Hornets beat writer Rod Boone. I said, hey, any chance that they can give proper injury reports? What's the status on Mark Williams? Yeah, I'm doubtful they can do that. And I was pretty snarky a little bit, but it's like, okay, find out some answers here. I go, this is like detrimental to the players, the way they do this. And someone said, can you explain why it's detrimental? Like, yeah, very easily. Because people see Mark Williams doubtful and go, well, I mean, he's close to playing. All he's got to sore back. Why has he played one game since the 2nd of December, 3 weeks ago? On a sore back, what a pussy. Soft cock. He's not ready to play. He doesn't care enough about the team. There's nothing. I've got a sore back. I'm ready to go. Like, it casts aspersions on the players. Just say he's got back spasms, nerve issue, muscle strain, whatever. Versus doubt, because doubtful every game makes it think like, oh, you're not far. You're ready to play. And it puts the blame back on the players for being too soft or not willing enough to do the work to get in. That's the problem. Anyway, he's doubtful. Jalen Duren is officially doubtful, so his return is coming. So thank God we're going to get rid of the Marvin Bagley, Jim Wiseman stuff, but we're still going to run with the two bigs because Isaiah Stewart's got to play. You know he's got to play. On positive news, and I didn't even include him on here because I just thought this guy's never playing again. Cody Martin's questionable. Out of nowhere. Off the top rope, Cody Martin, who's played 7 games in 2 seasons, is questionable to return. That's great. Love that for Cody. I think he's a really good player. I always thought he was a better player than Caleb. Obviously, Caleb's been much better the last 2 seasons because Cody hasn't played. Cody's a very different player to Caleb, weirdly enough. But he'll just come in and take some of those Bryce McGowan minutes. Honestly, if he was fit and healthy, I think Steve Clifford would love him, and he would play like 24, 25 a night. So we'll see what happens. We're not adding Cody Martin anywhere, obviously. I'm listing Jason Tatum as questionable. He missed the last game with an ankle injury. Actually, I'm not listing him. The Celtics are listing him questionable, so he should be ready to go pretty soon. Doesn't appear like it's anything serious, which is great news. Kawhi Leonard missed the last game. I'm going to put him questionable for now. I think he'll be okay and ready to go. And then there's Tari this season, who is dealing with the leg soreness, which is not great. He missed the last game. They've got a back-to-back here, the Rockets, on Friday, Saturday, so I would expect that Eason sits one of those. The biggest bird himself, Zion Williamson, missed the last game with illness. He was questionable the game before with an illness, so I've got him questionable for this upcoming game. He's obviously sick. And I also had someone mention to me, again, I think this is, some of you might be going, why do you have to respond to this stuff? But I think it's important because it goes out to a wider community when I do it on the show and that sort of thing versus a one-on-one response. And someone said, man, why are these players out for 4 days with an illness? Like, I get sick and I miss a day of work and I go back. Cool. That's great. But there are different levels of illnesses. And some of the time, if you aren't right, you've got to be performing as an athlete in the NBA when you're top 0.01% of basketball players in the world. If you're off, you get cooked and you hurt your team. That's part of it. But also, if you actually have the flu, and there is a big difference between having a cold and the flu, if you have the flu, you can be in bed for a week. You cannot do shit. It might be 2 weeks. The flu knocks, think about COVID, right? That's the flu was able to do that, is able to do that sort of stuff. And it depends. If you get influenza versus a cold, they are different things. A cold, yeah, you might miss a game. If you actually get the flu, there's no way you can play a basketball game anywhere close to being 100%, 70%, 60%. That is why some of these guys are taking this extra time off, I'm convinced, because there is obviously peak sort of flu season. We're all squished inside. We're traveling on planes together like these guys are in hotels, passes around through other things that might be passed around. Who knows? Right, they are in that situation where that contact and the flu knocks you around. They're traveling so much, their immune system can be shot from weird sleep schedules. There's a whole bunch of medicine and science behind this, but a common cold is not the same as getting the flu. I hope that's okay. I hope that makes sense. Joe Ingles, questionable. Jalen Suggs, questionable. Missed the last game there. Marcus Smart, I listed questionable because he was sort of questionable for the last game, but he's actually now doubtful. So we're not going to get him returning, it looks like, on Saturday. So next week looks like for him. I just got a bunch of official statuses. Zion is officially questionable, so we did get that news there. So the injury report just dropped. And Tyrese Halliburton actually just popped up as questionable with an ankle problem. So those of you who are panicking about Tyrese Halliburton, maybe it was his ankle that was bothering him. Don Mitchell, I'm going to list questionable with an illness. I think he'll be okay. Sam Merrill, hurt his wrist last game. If Mitchell plays, Merrill's really an afterthought anyway. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Rui Hachimura are all officially questionable. We know the story with LeBron and AD. It's going to be every single game. Josh Giddey with the ankle sprain left last game early. I'd be pretty surprised if Giddey played, but who knows? At the moment, I'm listening in questionable. Haven't got an official word. I'm just double checking. I don't think I've got an official word on that one for Giddey. No, not yet. So he is officially questionable. Oh, no, sorry, unofficially questionable. On to the next bunch of them. Brandon Pajemski, I've got as questionable because he is currently questionable for Friday's game. So I don't know, after falling on his back, I don't know if he's going to play on that one. Andrew Wiggins is also questionable for Friday's game with an illness. So their statuses for Saturday have to be up in the air. Shaden Sharp missed the last game with a groin issue. I would think that Sharp probably leans a little bit closer to doubtful here versus questionable. And then Luka Doncic and Dante Exum are both out for Friday's game. I'm going to think that the Doncic one is more of a maintenance, workload, fatigue thing, and he should be okay for Saturday. Exum I'm not sure about, but I think he's probably closer to playing than like a Josh Green or Kyrie Irving. We don't, unfortunately, have the update yet on Karl Anthony Towns, which is frustrating. I'm currently listing him as questionable. The report on him was, obviously he didn't look great walking off with a limp, but the report was that he was walking around the locker room after the game without a limp, so we hope that's okay. I talked about it yesterday. I still think that we want both Naz Reid and Kyle Anderson to be added. Reid's basically rostered in most 12s anyway. He's got a much safer floor than Kyle Anderson, so you'd probably do prioritize him. But Anderson's going to be the guy that's more widely available. So I think they're both 12-team guys if Towns happens to be out, which at this stage we just don't know. We've got a bunch of probable tags as well. We don't need to worry too much about these ones. Yanni, Marjon Beauchamp, Aaron Gordon is probable for the game on Friday, so I expect that he'll be okay for Saturday as well, but who knows. Jalen Smith missed the last game. That was likely just resting due to the back-to-back, so I expect he'll play. I tried to predict that Taylor Horton-Tucker was sort of sitting that game because it was a back-to-back, and I had this theory that the Jazz were like, all right, we're going to sit a bunch of guys against the Pistons because we're not super confident. We're 3 games in 4 nights. We don't want to actually lose to this team, so let's build ourselves in an excuse for why we lose. Of course, they won anyway, so I thought that's sort of what they were doing there with Markin in particular. But Horton-Tucker too. But the official injury report does list Horton-Tucker as questionable for Saturday. I think, again, I'm going to lean that towards probable. That's why I put him as probable there. And Killian Hayes is probable also. Jared Vanderbilt, probable. Gabe Vincent, probable. Malik Monk was probable for today. But they just released the official report says questionable for today being Friday because they got a back-to-back. I think that the likelihood is that Monk plays both of these games, but we're not sure. And then in terms of guys returning, which I didn't include on the list, I should have. Markkanen's going to play, like he just set the last game out due to a back-to-back, and Al Horford missed the last game due to a back-to-back as well. And both of those guys should be back and ready to go. That was a long first segment. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. We are smack bang right in the middle of holiday season. And gift giving is a huge part of this time of year, whether you like it or not. That's just the way things go. And we give gifts to others in our family, and just something that happens at this time of year. But do we spend enough time giving something to ourselves, or giving us the gift of allowing ourselves to just take a break, to take some rest time, to be able to escape and look after ourselves in that manner? Holidays are a great time to try and institute some of those things, and getting that professional help to help you deal with some of the overstresses that happen during this time frame is really useful. And that's what therapy can do. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. In the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Probably need less tangents. I can't believe that segment went for so long. Anyway, maybe this one won't go for as long. All right, let's look at Yahoo Points League streaming options for the games on Saturday. Again, we're looking at 45% or below in terms of rostered percentage here. Taylor Horton-Tucker sits at 44 at the moment. The Clarkson return, if it happens, might complicate things, but they really haven't wanted to use Sexton and Clarkson in a point guard role. They basically use them as shooting guards. So with Keontae out, I think Horton Tucker goes and plays those 28 minutes, but remember, he can be one of the most horrific on-court players out there. And even last game where he played 30 minutes, not the one against the Pistons, the one before, he played 30 minutes, he got dragged after like 2 minutes. They went, bro, can you like pull up? What are you doing? And then he came back and he ended up with 30 minutes. But Will Hardy has had enough of his bullshit. It's why he got benched for one of the most inefficient players in the league in Keontae George, because Horton Tucker is a frustrating guy to play with and to watch. So while I do think he's a good option, the Clarkson return complicates it slightly. I think Derrick Jones is a pretty good stream. Obviously, would be much better if we get the assumption that Kyrie, Green, Exum, and Doncic are out. I don't assume that Doncic and Exum are out, but it could happen. Big Dick Nick Richards with Mark Williams, doubtful. He's still there for us. Johnny Kuminga, really strong points league stream. Jaden Ivey, I know Killian Hayes is going to return, but I would be... Actually, no, I was going to say something then that is not true. Because I was going to say I would be flabbergasted if Monty Williams benched Jaden Ivey and limited him after what happened last game with his performance. But it is Monty Williams. So I wouldn't be flabbergasted. In fact, I'd almost expect the wrong decision to be made. Still, I think Ivey's worth looking at. And then the rabbit hunter himself, Alex Caruso, is in there for Yahoo points. A lot of the names are similar for the ESPN point streams. We've got Derrick Jones, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Big Dick Nick, Alex Caruso, Johnny Kuminga. I'm going to throw Jeremy Sohan in there as well. He's not great, obviously, but he's playing a lot of minutes and his points translation's a little bit better on ESPN versus on Yahoo. So he has a little bit of a bump there, but there are quite a few things. And I've mentioned this before. You see all these roster percentage numbers that I'm using on ESPN for the ESPN points. They are not ESPN roster percentages because I'm done with them. I'm done with referencing those numbers. I have been for a few weeks. And anyone who is in the fantasy industry, whether you're a podcaster, YouTuber, a writer, or whoever you are that works in the fantasy industry, we need to collectively agree to not use ESPN roster percentages because they're completely unrealistic. Sometimes I'll listen to some content or read something and go, well, this guy's actually available in 90% of ESPN leagues. And I've been guilty of that in the past as well. Man, he's only 10%. Isaiah Hartenstein's only 13% rostered in ESPN leagues. So he's available everywhere. That's just not accurate. Like, I believe that the 13% rostered is accurate. I'm not faulting that number. But it actually doesn't serve our communities at all. And I'm trying to really focus in and narrow these percentages and make them make more sense to everybody here to try and cover newer people or experienced people, deeper leagues, obviously. Because I've put a guy that's 60% rostered, most of you, in 12 teams, you go, well, he's well gone. If I put a 40% guy, some guys will, in my 12-team league, he's gone as well. All right, so it is hard to get that right around. But the ESPN one, I reckon there's 40% of their leagues that are inactive. So you might say, well, this is weird. He's available in 70% of leagues. And every single person that plays on ESPN that's competitive doesn't roster him. And I think if you're going out of your way to seek out fantasy content through articles, podcasts, YouTube videos, you're in the part of those leagues that are competitive, not the ones that don't care at all and just going off vibes, so that those percentages don't actually make any sense. Again, that's a long-winded explanation to anyone that's in the content creation space for fantasy basketball. Do not reference fantasy roster percentages on ESPN. It does our communities a disservice. Anyway, so those roster percentages are Yahoo-based, which I think is fine enough to correlate across. I'm still always working to try and get numbers to make more sense, but, not always going to get there, are we? Let's look at category stream options, and we're going to go through each of the major categories. For points, I think Horton Tucker is there. Again, the Clarkson one hits that back a little bit. There's not the overwhelming big one there, but what we would love, if we do get Doncic out again, then Jaden Hardy and Tim Hardaway are right now. Hardaway's rostered in most spots, but they are going to be gigantic boost players if we get those players out. I'm very interested to see what happens with the numbers for those guys on Friday. Derrick Jones, pretty good points option. Jaden Ivey, Johnny Kuminga, Storm and Norman Powell, and Gaz Trent, I think is worth a look. The minutes are trending up. I'm not a big Gaz guy, but the production is up. The minutes are up. We'll see whether that holds. I don't know that it does. But often you can get 3 or 4 games in a little run like that. So getting on ahead is okay. For threes, Derrick Jones hitting a lot of threes. He's been really a revelation this season, honestly. Simone Fontecchio, they are giving this guy minutes at the expense of John Collins, Taylor Hendricks, Walker Kessler at times. Even though Markkanen's likely back, I can see them starting Fontecchio, putting Markkanen at the 4 and benching Collins or benching Kessler again. They seem to be giving him a lot of minutes. He's available everywhere. He might only hit 2 threes and score 6 points, but if you want threes, he's available. Grant Williams doesn't do anything apart from spot up corner threes. Donte DiVincenzo, the big ragu, is playing well. Again, it is still hard to understand how the minutes always roll with that team, but whatever. Gary Trent, and then Isaiah Joe, who gets a bigger bump if Josh Giddey is out. He would be the guy that I would add over Cason Wallace, but I don't think that he's a must-roster 12-team league guy. We just look at him as a pretty nice threes streamer in this situation. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's also the easiest and the most exciting way to play DFS. It is just you against the numbers. Instead of battling against thousands of other players, including the pros and the sharks, you just pick the more or less on a number. You do between 2 to 6 of those individual stat projections. They put them up. It's points. It's rebounds, steals, whatever. They put them up and you go bang. More, bang less. That's a double bang, another double bang. There you go. You do between 2 to 6 of those, get them into your entry, and you can actually win up to 25 times your money back if you bang out all 6 of those. So you put them out there, you see what it is. They've got a large selection of individual player projections, the large selection of players, large selection of individual stats as well. They've got the combo specials, which you can do cross-sport ones. So like combined three-pointers and receptions for an NBA player and an NFL player. Those options are there as well. It's fast, it's easy, and it's fun. What more could you ask for? So you can ask for this actually, because on PrizePicks, at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA, if you use the code LockedOnNBA, you can get a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Let's go through the next section now. We're looking at who a rebound stream is. I'm going with Big Dick Nick as probably the top one there. And the next one, of course, is the best rebounder in the game. I say that with complete seriousness, Andre Drummond. I know that Kingy streamed him in yesterday in our matchup in industry pickup, and he had 5 steals, 2 blocks, 10 rebounds, 8 points, something that just killed me completely. But even in the minutes, and I don't expect that Drummond's playing 20 a night, he's not. But he can get 7 rebounds in 13 minutes. That's fine. He's a very good rebound streamer. We sort of know this about him. He's done this for many, many years. Dwight Powell with Derek Lively expected to be out. Powell, he doesn't do much, but he might get 8 rebounds. Amazingly, I'm going to say that Isaiah Stewart you can consider. Jalen Duren is doubtful but won't play, and this isn't a Hornets doubtful, so I just don't think he's going to be ready though. Stewart is still going to play next to Marvin Bagley, but he's an interesting option there. And then if you want to go smaller, you've got Josh the Hitman Hart, who's available in a lot of spots, and Day'Ron Sharpe, probably the second best rebounder, who at least is a backup, behind Andre Drummond. He can definitely pull down double digits if things go right his way. And sometimes when we're taking flyers to try and win a category at the end of the week, we need those sort of lottery ticket hits. For assists, I am going to throw Taylor Horton-Tucker in there. I do expect that he starts even if Clarkson returns. Trey Jones is a pretty good assist guy, even though the minutes are limited. It's a pretty rough day for assists, to be honest, to stream him in. Not easy. Kelly Olynyk's been getting quite a lot of them, but his role might be 30. It might be 19 minutes. I don't know. Jeremy Sohan, the role is fine. The assists, not necessarily, but they're okay. Killian Hayes can get you 4 or 5. He doesn't do much more than that. And then Reggie Jackson is a bit of a home run swing sort of an option. Not great assist option sitting on the wire. For steals, there are some pretty good ones. We start with the rabbit hunter, Alex Caruso, one of the best steals guy out there and should really be rostered in more spots. The best steal option is Matisse Thybulle, without any question. He might go scoreless, but he'll have 3 steals and 2 blocks. He won't necessarily, but he very easily can. And some of the time, again, when we're trying to look at these things, who are the guys that can give you not necessarily a safe floor? Because in the last day of the matchup, we're not always looking for a safe floor. Can you catch me up 5 steals? And Thybulle can. Very clearly. Derrick Jones is probably not a 5 steal upside. It's probably a 2 steal upside. Reddish is probably a 3 steal upside, which is all still very good. But Thybulle's the 5, 6 steal ups. If any of these guys is going to get a double-digit steals game, it's Thybulle. Reddish is on that list. Xavier Tillman and Andre Drummond, 2 big men. So sometimes when you're looking for this weird combo, hey, I need rebounds and steals with some blocks, then Tillman and Drummond, 2 of, if not the very best, stealing big men in the NBA. That's where they are able to make their impacts defensively. So that is sometimes a weird combo that you can get. It's like getting Josh Hart as a guard-eligible rebounder. For blocks, it is Big Dick Nick right at the top there. Trace Jackson-Davis, we'll get a better idea on Friday to see how he gets used, but his roster percentage has already jumped up to 34 just to see what happens, which I agree with. Bismack Biyombo at 7. The him and Tillman situation is confusing, but he can always come out with 2 or 3 blocks. Derrick Jones, you've seen his name a lot here. Johnny Isaac, and then one of my favorite under-the-radar players is Peyton Watson. He's been on a really strong run. He's top 100 over the last week. I'm not suggesting he's a must-roster 12-teamer. He isn't, but he is a nice, deeper league guy who just seems to be getting blocks every single game, and he has got tremendous long-term top 75 fantasy upside. And it's in a little stretch here where it is interesting enough for us to use him. Field goal percentage, Dwight Powell, this is what he does. There's not really anything else, but this is what he does. Big Dick Dick is there. Mo Wagner, who seems to have the backup role over Goga Badadze now. Trace Jackson Davis, Bismack Biyombo, and Marvin Bagley III, also known as James Wiseman Sr. That's what he can do. He was like 80% last game. They can impact it. And remember, field goal percentage is not just about the pure percentage. It's about the volume you can chuck out there too. In terms of free throws, Kelly Olynyk, a really good free throw shooter. Another one of those weird out-of-position assists, but also rebounds, blocks, and free throws, if he even plays enough minutes. But who knows? We don't know with Will Hardy and the Jazz. Cam Reddish at 8%. Harrison Barnes, awesome free throw streamer. Norman Powell. Malachi Branham's a really good free throw guy who's not rostered anywhere. Also, just quickly, I know there's definitely, it's a very split community here on the Spurs. I don't know, have I got time? I guess I'm not doing another show today, so this is what we got for today. The Spurs, right? I can acknowledge that Greg Popovich is the greatest coach of all time. I acknowledge it all the time. I can also acknowledge now, and there's going to be a lot of people that push back on this, if you're still watching 25 minutes in, he's not even a top 10 coach now in the NBA. He has lost a lot, I think, and it's really frustrating watching the Spurs. And I know that people say, well, why are you so against them starting Trey Jones? It's not that I'm against them starting Trey Jones. It's just I don't think they are in favor of it at all. And Trey Jones is not a starting caliber point guard on a good team. So I don't have a problem with them not trying to develop him. But it's more to the point of the way that the schemes get used and watching horses like Keldon Johnson like just put their head down, try and dribble when there's a 7'5" man standing open under the basket, just so Keldon can bully his way in and miss a shot, is incredibly frustrating. And a lot of that's on Pop. The lineups don't always make sense, but it's more just about coaching and getting these guys into their right spots. And you should be just building so much around Wembanyama. The fact that they didn't actually get any real point guards or haven't made a play to get like a Kobe Whitehead restricted free agency, Emmanuel Quickly, Cole Anthony. There's so many of these guys who would be perfect on this team. And they just don't do it. And these other guys that just don't compliment him. Like, I would have traded Keldon Johnson a year and a half ago, especially after you got Wemby. Get rid of him. He doesn't make sense to me on this team. Get some other pieces back. And I know this is me going off on a tangent, but I just think that there's really no criticism of Popovich. And they don't deserve the criticism that the Hornets are getting or the Pistons. Like, they're not on that level, right? They are on a terrible losing streak. They've got a terrible record. And a lot of it's understandable. They've got Wembanyama, we know this. But there are some things that I just don't think are brought up enough. Anyway, nice side point, Josh. Cool, keep going. George Niang, 2% rostered, is a pretty good free throw guy. He'll be 22, 23 minutes, I'm guessing, for the Cavs, and that's enough. Let's look at some other categories there. And I realize I forgot on the bottom of that graphic to stop George Niang's name popping up. But there it is, back again, George Niang. 3-point percentage, Aaron Nesmith, he's rolling at the moment. I don't believe he's a must-roster 12-team long-term guy, but you can go with it. There's no problem. He's shooting like 49% from three at the moment. He's averaging a gigantic amount of steals, big block numbers, and I think all of that is going to come back down. But you're rolling with it. Go with it. Assist to turnover is Trey Jones. He's really good at that category. We know this. Offensive rebounds are Dwight Powell. And I don't like the way these abbreviations look now that I'm looking at it, but people did ask for, can you put field goals made in as a category and the other streaming? It's a horrible category. Please don't include it in your league. So is free throws made. Free throws made probably the worst category in fantasy basketball. Or maybe not, because triple doubles and tech fouls and that exist too. Free throws made just makes me think, all right, that's like female to male, like transition. And then FGM stands for female genital mutilation. And I hate seeing those words, especially coming from a medical background where you see those things all the time. So I look at that and go, ooh, that's a bit rough. But anyway, free throws made. If you're looking to stream that in, Jaden Ivey. If you're looking to stream in someone for field goals made, that's John Kuminga. And there you go. And that was a show. It was definitely a show. Guys, you know what to do. Do you want to be known as a double banger? I mean, who doesn't? Go and subscribe on the video side. And all my YouTube guys that are here, all the YouTube legends, Yuri, Victor, Tejas, bigoted legend Ricardo, welcome back to you again. Who else is out here that's always in these YouTube streets? I know there's people I'm forgetting. There's always like Wiss, who's always around as well. So shout out to all of you guys who are always in the premieres, always chatting, always throwing good advice to people. Always appreciate you guys. I know there's people I'm forgetting, so I do apologize. And then the audio side, I love you guys. You've always been there from the start as well. So if we just cross them over, let's just get into both spots, build the audience up, build this show into being the biggest show that it possibly can be. I'd love to be the biggest fantasy sports show in the world. I don't think it's going to get there. And I know you guys are always hesitant to recommend it to other people. people, but I really do appreciate, because of course this is my job in my life, so I do want it to grow as much as possible as I just keep waffling on here. This isn't my last show before Christmas. There will be one tomorrow. We'll do a Week 10 preview show. Yeah, Week 10 preview show tomorrow. So that will be my last show before Christmas, and there's no time off. The NBA doesn't take time off. I don't take time off. We're rolling all the way through. Guys, sorry, this is just, it feels rambly and emotional. Who knows? Guys, we're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.